The Trump administration has told the governor of New York to effectively pound sand when it comes to her much hated, much despised $9 toll on the bridges leading into the city of New York. You see, this much hated tax, despised by millions, was in effect a social conditioning tool. The idea was to force people who couldn't afford the daily $9 to take alternative routes into the city. If not by road, why pay for the bus or pay to get on a subway? It's a strategy by Governor Hochul to both reduce congestion in the Big Apple for daytime traffic, as well as put a $500 million tax on year one on the citizens of both her state and the surrounding neighbors. This is an article from the New York Post discussing this very thing. The article reads, New York City congestion pricing axed as Trump's Department of Transportation pulls approval of the hated toll. Congestion pricing we hardly knew ye. New York's spectacularly unpopular congestion pricing scheme is on death row as the Trump administration announced Wednesday it is pulling its approval of the toll. Oh no. Slamming it as backwards and unfair. This is a major blow to Kathy Hochul. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration terminated the approval of the controversial program, according to a letter Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy sent to Hochul on Wednesday afternoon. Duffy said New York State's congestion pricing plan is a slap in the face to working-class Americans and small business owners, noting that commuters entering New York City have already financed the construction and improvement of city roadways through their taxes. But now, he went on to say, the toll program leaves drivers without any free highway alternative and instead takes more money from working people to pay for a transit system and not highways. It is backwards. It is unfair, he said, blasting the program as harmful to small business in the Big Apple that depends on customers from New Jersey and Connecticut. Now, the department will officially rescind the November 21st agreement signed under the Value Pricing Pilot Program, or the VPPP, that imposed a stiff $9 surcharge for drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street starting in January. Wait a minute. November 21st. There it is again. Another last-minute approval by the Biden administration after they lose the 2024 election. Didn't go their way, so why not screw the citizens of New York? It is almost as if they wanted to bring as much pain to the American people or to their New York citizens as possible as retribution for voting in the wrong person. Now, of course, there's no real way to know if this was a way to smack around some people out of anger. It just seems like maybe that could have been a motivation here. But what do I really know? Now, Governor Hochul was none too pleased with Donald Trump for flicking her in the face with this and immediately threatened to sue the Trump administration for taking away her new gravy train. This is an article from The Hill, which says Hochul to Trump on congestion pricing. We'll see you in court. New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Wednesday pushed back against President Trump after the White House rescinded approval of Manhattan's congestion pricing plan. She said, since this first-in-the-nation program took effect last month, congestion has dropped dramatically, and commuters are getting to work faster than ever. Oh, how wonderful. They're just paying a little bit extra, of course. These stupid plebes, they can afford it. Broadway shows are selling out, and foot traffic to local businesses is spiking. And then she added, we'll see you in court, stating that the Metropolitan Transportation Authority initiated legal proceedings over the move in the Southern District of New York. Now, on Wednesday, the president said New York was saved after the administration announced it would walk back the pricing plan. He said, congestion pricing is dead, Manhattan, and all of New York is saved. And then he wrote, long live, long live the king.
Long live the king.
And Hochul, of course, had to fire back at Trump. She couldn't help herself. And she said, we are a nation of laws, not ruled by a king. School buses are getting kids to class on time, Mr. President. And yellow cab trips increased by 10%, probably because they didn't want to bring their cars in. So now they're spending even more money. Transit ridership is up, she said. Drivers are having a better experience. Those who could afford it, that is. And support for this program is growing every day. Yeah, I don't think that part is true. But whatever. Anyway, Wednesday's action by the Trump administration, writes The Hill, takes back a $9 toll for drivers coming into a portion of Manhattan, which New York City and the Empire State officials implemented to curb traffic and lower air pollution. Of course they did. Those against the plan said it weighed on consumers too much. New York State's congestion pricing plan is a slap in the face to working class Americans and small business owners. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said in a previous statement, "Every American should be able to access New York City regardless of the economic means. It shouldn't be reserved for an elite few." Now, my friends, you see, the Wicked Witch of the East, also known as Governor Hochul, is big mad about all of this because she was hailing it as a victory for her state, even though her people despised it and other states were harmed by her program. But it's okay, she told her subjects. You see, before this got terminated, the MTA was reporting that the congestion pricing program had shown positive results. And how so, you might ask? Well, it reduced traffic in Manhattan because people couldn't afford the extra daily expense, $9 a day to enter the city, and because the less thans, the plebs, couldn't afford to take their cars across the bridges and the tunnels. And so magically, there was faster travel times for those who could afford it. Hip, hip, hooray. And guess what? Those lower class citizens that couldn't afford the $9 fee to cross the bridge every day were now being forced to take alternatives like buses and even the god-awful subways. And of course, all of this meant more money for the state. Yay! But in the end, this program was nothing more than a giant tax on the citizens of New York. They were estimating that $500 million, as I mentioned earlier, is what they would generate in year one. All of this was to support a $15 billion debt that New York has generated for financing for mass transit capital improvements. And guess what? The price wasn't going to stay at $9. It was originally supposed to go up to $15. But you know, the thing with leftists and pauses of taxes is it never stays that way for long, does it? So eventually, she would get that price increase, which means, by golly gosh gee, they would double how much taxes they would generate from this. $1 billion a year on taxing the peons who must work in her city and have to cross those subways, those bridges. All of this was so close and so within reach for Governor Hochul. But that mean old president, he just had to get in her way. Damn it. Now, not all political figures are mad at Trump for this. In fact, there was Democrat-on-Democrat crimes committed here. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who is a Democrat, had previously pled and urged Trump to halt the tolls, and then thanked the administration for its decision here. And the Nassau County Executive, Bruce Blakeman, also praised the move, calling the congestion pricing an oppressive tax. Now, the bottom line to all of this is Trump's move here and the subsequent trolling of both the media, the left, and of Governor Hochul herself by calling himself a king is frankly incredibly hilarious to me. The left is so devoid of humor these days. They can't even for a moment fathom that this is all a joke and that they are the butt of this joke. I mean, they keep calling him Hitler. They keep calling him dictator. So he calls himself a king. And they flip their lids over this. You know, Governor Hochul thumbs Trump in the eye with her sanctuary state. So he says, fine, I'll take away your unjust tax on the citizens of New York. Flicks her right in the face with it. And guess what? In all of this, his trolling of Governor Hochul and the left, it elevates the story so much so that the average citizens of New York are getting a front row to all of this. Because of his king comment, millions of people in the state of New York who otherwise would not have paid attention to this story at all hear about it and get to see it. It speaks to the marketing genius that is Donald Trump. This man plays his opponents, both here and on the global stage, like a Stradivarius. You would think after 8 years, his enemies would get a clue, but they just don't seem to. These people seem to only know how to do one thing when it comes to Donald Trump. And that is press repeat.